I'm Mona Luqman. I'm from Yemen. I love my country, and that is why I am working with Food for Humanity. It's an organization that I established in 2015. It works mainly on providing safe water resources for people who have lost their livelihoods or lost their because of the war in Yemen.
When somebody says Mona Luqman is a peace builder, as we have been saying, tell me, how do you describe that? As a peace builder, what do you do?
I bridge the differences between the communities, between the people, trying to search for the common ground between them, such as bread, water, humanitarian aid, things like that that bring people together.
What inspires you?
I have seen a lot of pain in my community, and I'm always inspired to make this community a better place, especially for the children. I don't want them to go through what we've been through.
Is it scary work? Does it scare you?
Yes, I think at the beginning, I didn't really feel very scared. I just felt that urge of wanting to help the people. But then the deeper I got into it, and I was so surprised to see the armed groups really attacking me and attacking this kind of work. I think that's when it got really threatening and scary, yes.
And what were they attacking? Why did they attack you?
I think the armed groups, especially, they think that you are against them. So they're intimidated by any sort of work in the community. And I would say that that is because they are always trying to mobilize the community, especially the young youth, to fight each other, to be part of their fighting groups and fighting militias. And I think that any action or any initiative that tries to remobilize these young boys and children and men into peace, into humanitarian work, into community work, actually intimidates the armed groups.
So in a way, they want to divide and put fear, and you're saying, no, we're bridging them, and
Yes.
we're going to do something together for the community.
Exactly. I think they build their violence over hate speech and over dividing the community.
A lot of people would be afraid of what war means. Does war scare you? What scares you?
The loss of hope scares me a lot. The loss of connection in the community scares me a lot, because that means that war will never end. But the actual war, I think, of course I was scared of war, but once you're actually in it, I think we adapt to it and we start becoming more resilient and more strengthful. But actually feeling that we can lose hope will really terrify me sometimes.
You've been a member of WASL for a number of years. What does it mean to be part of the Women's Alliance for Security Leadership, WASL?
I am a proud member of WASL. WASL has connected me to myself, first of all, to my community, to the world. It's amplified my voice, the issues that I represent, the country that I represent. And it's also brought me together with a collective network of powerful, experienced, and knowledgeable women, many of which I actually feel so alike. And that in itself has really helped me to grow my skills and experience also and knowledge, and reflect that on the work that I am doing also.
And when you are here together, we're at the forum for the first time in 2.5 years, it's been COVID. What's the feeling? What does it feel like to be here?
Empowered, strengthened. I feel the hope to do more. And I really feel the support, the love, and the knowledge that we're gaining also is really important.
Mona, for a number of years, we, through the Innovative Peace Fund at ICAN, have been supporting your work on the ground. Can you describe a little bit what kind of work you've been doing, and especially how that relates to the peace processes in Yemen and the kind of the events that are happening now? Sort of where do you situate yourself, and how has the IPF grant making helped you?
I think, Sanam, for many years I was working on an island on my own. Nobody really knew what I was doing and what I was trying to achieve. And those who knew didn't understand it, and those who understood it did not support it.
Why didn't they support it?
I think that for many reasons. First of all, priorities. People didn't understand how important this is. And another point is that I'm trying to work with all parties. And every party wants to politicize my work and myself. And I just refuse to be mobilized to either parties. And that also, it left me without any funding, either regional or local or even international. International funding was really mainly also supporting humanitarian work for large international groups, which I was not part of. And so there are many reasons behind that. But through the IPF, I was able to do more work, more impact, get more impact on the community, because first of all, it helped me in reaching more communities. It helped me to sustain the organization, which was nearly going to close down. So I think the IPF really supported my work in many different ways, not only financially, but also in growing the capacity of the organization, the capacity of myself and my knowledge also.
And if somebody says, what was the work specifically? What has it been in the last 2.5 years?
I've been able to create a network of youth peace builders on the ground, support them in implementing some of the community initiatives on the ground. During COVID-19, we were able to reach hospitals and reach and train young youth medics, and that has helped me in also maybe creating a better relationship with some of the organizations and some of the armed groups on the ground, which enabled me also to be able to communicate with them on peace mediation issues, which were a taboo and still are a taboo in a very shrinking civil society in Yemen. But I think it opened doors.
So doing health work in the community enabled them to see that, what, you're a good person, that you're a trustworthy person?
Absolutely. I think it built a lot of confidence and trust with many, either the local governments that we were working with, or the armed groups who are on the ground. And that, I think, has helped us in facilitate more work and more initiatives and more projects on the ground, because we were always facing this block. And I think trust is really important, even with our enemies.
And then, are you involved in the security conversations? What does that mean when somebody says Mona Luqman is involved in the negotiations around security issues? What are the issues you're dealing with, and who are you sitting around the table with?
I think, Sanam, that the community is in such a divide, like we said before. And to be able to reach any point of UN-led peace process agreements, we must go back to the bottom-up approach. And I think that since the war happened for nearly 8 years now, we've only been seeing the elite approach. And recently, a more community approach has been introduced, more inclusive peace process. And that's where I come in now, and others also. I'm not directly involved in the main negotiations, but in the main consultations on track 1, on track 2, track 3, mainly track 1.5, sorry, which is the security dialogues. My work also as advisor to some of the organizations such as DCAF and others has also helped me to be in these dialogues, where we bring security officials, military, civil society, community workers like myself, and we start dialogues on what can happen in Yemen. What would a security sector reform look like? What would post-conflict look like? What are the measures that we can do right now to not only reach an agreement, but an inclusive, sustainable peace?
And are you talking about ceasefires, truces, etc.? By having all these people, does it mean that the voices of, say, youth or women and their concerns about security come into the lecture? Does it become a more, as you said, bottom up? But what does bottom up actually mean? What's the difference between a bottom up and a top down in terms of the substance and the topics and the priorities that are identified?
I think the bottom up really focuses on the grassroots and the community and the needs of the community. It also focuses on the issues and the drivers between those issues. So if we're speaking about violence in the community, the bottom-up approach speaks about the drivers of the conflict. But the elite approach, which we're usually seeing, which is the old school way of having two parties and a battlefield, that does not reflect the community. So that means the voices of women, the children, the IDPs, the displaced people are all not reflected in that. I think that now, yes, we do speak more about the ceasefire mechanisms.
Mhm.
So before they would speak about a ceasefire, but they would do a ceasefire, such as Stockholm, for instance. The mechanisms were not in there. A truce, what does a truce actually mean? Even for the fighters on the ground, what does it mean? What are the definitions? All of this is now coming in, and it's really mainly coming in from the women. And the women and the youth are bringing these discussions to the table right now.
And so what, can you give us an example of what they're saying? Like nobody, when the world thinks about these things, they don't understand. What do you mean? How do the women say we want a mechanism? What's that mechanism?
I think, for instance, for Yemen, we have a multi-layered issue on the ground. So we have grievances. We have each government is different to the other. The UN-led peace process, with all due respect, is only focusing on one aspect of the war in Yemen. But we have lots of conflicts within. We have the economy. The economy is causing a conflict. We have a war economy. The women come in and say, we have a war economy. We need these people to be accounted for, accountable. We need these violations that are on the ground to have a monitoring system. And these women are really experienced, and many of them have been in security for quite a while, but these voices were not there before. Every day when we include more women, we feel that the outcome is always better.
Mona, you launched the She Builds Peace campaign in Yemen. You were one of the first ones in 2000. Tell us, what did you do? How has it worked? Who has it reached? What's the impact?
I'm really proud of this initiative. We launched She Builds Peace in March 2020. It was one of the first around the world, and it really helped us get the message of COVID-19 awareness around. It was a very tough time. We chose a very tough place and challenging place. People were still fighting. And here we are wanting to speak about peace, where peace itself is a taboo kind of in the community. And we used the message to, we tried to think of a common ground where the interests of all parties would be reflected in the campaign. So we used water as a catalyst for peace, and we were able to introduce the whole initiative through water, and also through supporting the young medics on the ground. And I think that, for instance, for water, it was really important because people were like hearing from the WHO and around the world that you have to wash your hands. And the water scarcity problem in Yemen is very high, and it's also contaminated. And for us to be able, through the She Builds campaign, to support water interventions in Yemen, to create awareness, we actually used a lot of, we used the video graphics also to share the awareness messages. And I think that was really important because it reached 200,000 families in maybe a few days.
And all along, it was under the auspices of She Builds Peace, and we're talking about water.
Yes. And we also trained 250 young medics. And these were the medics who were at the front lines. At that time, WHO wasn't there. And it was our young medics that we had trained who were able to respond when COVID actually hit Yemen. But it also created a lot of awareness about what is a woman peacebuilder, what do these women do, what is the She Builds Peace campaign, and how important it is for the community.
That's amazing. And have others replicated your work? Are they taking She Builds Peace and going forward, or are they doing other initiatives?
Well, we have another initiative that actually created a center, which is called the She Builds Peace Center. In this center, we train women from the local communities, especially those who have been displaced, and a variety of awareness issues are discussed in the center, at the center. Other initiatives were launched because of the She Builds Peace campaign. And we had so many requests of people wanting to also join the movement. And I think it was a big success. And every year we try to also support them and try to grow the campaign even more.
That's fantastic. And then one last question. Looking forward into 2022 and 2023, what would you like to be doing? Like, what's the impact you want to be focused on? And how do you see ICAN and WASL being there with you? ICAN, one organization, but WASL as a movement being there.
I think, Sanam, that we've already seen now how our organization, Food for Humanity, has been able to evolve over the years with the support of ICAN especially, and how our work has now reflected onto the security dialogues, on the UN-led peace process, and on other issues also like food insecurity and economy and environment and climate change. And so we've been now involved in so many other things. I think right now the time has come to even promote this work even further, because I think we're now getting more recognition even from the local government, from the regional actors. We've been invited to other events such as the Riyadh events and Stockholm and Amman consultations with the UN. This is big. These are all indicators that people are seeing our work and seeing how, the importance of it and the impact of it on the peace process in Yemen. I really want to see the organization become more sustainable, and I really think that if we try to expand the work even more and consolidate it even more, in particular support to the team, because that will give a good example for the young youth also to join these kind of movements, to join peaceful movements. And it will also showcase how women-led organizations are able to bridge the community. At the beginning of our work, I remember people were very sarcastic and thought that we're like silly, people are fighting, what are you talking about? But now people are taking us more seriously. I was tweeting this morning and I saw the reactions were really good. Before, nobody would really support us. So I would really appreciate that, and I not just appreciate, but I actually see the need for more support for these kind of organizations, because the impact is there. We're seeing it. So many people have already turned into more peaceful people just because somebody took a hand, and that hand was mainly from a women-led organization.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, and for letting us know also all the little details of things that have happened. And your point about the fact that for you to have a movement in Yemen, you need solid organizations to foster and be able to drive it. And we just bring that constantly upwards. So it's the same, that if we want a global women's peace movement or women-led peace movement, you need organizations nationally, internationally, collectively. It's an ecosystem, and we all need each other. We can't do what you're doing. You can't, you shouldn't be doing what we're doing, because your work is so important on the ground and in terms of the people that you're dealing with. So it's really fabulous, and thank you so much for talking to us and for being such a great partner and for doing such amazing work and inspiring.
Thank you, Sanam, personally, for your support, your leadership, your tireless work. That's also an inspiration for us and for all the ICAN and WASL team.
Thank you. Thank you.